ShopDog says, welcome back. He also really likes Pringles and he loves Cheryl. So, what do we got here? A bunch of vacuum hoses.
Yeah, so this is, last week we rebuilt that pump, and this should be all the new line.
Yeah, because that stuff's looking pretty rough.
The washer. Let's see what we got in the box. Something from Ames Performance. It's scary. They just have my credit card number on file. And I just call in and say, okay, we'll send it right out to you. Hey, look at that.
Ah, washer bottle. Because we want to know where that goes. Because one of the goals today is to get the cooling system sealed and full with at least water. I mean, we just want to start checking for leaks. We've got our overflow tank, but until I know exactly where washers and stuff like that are actually mounted, it's like I know they've got a bottle that mounts here. We don't want to build brackets to mount that yet until we know. Ooh, beer with coffee in it, even better.
Nitro cold brew.
So, Pix had been sick for a couple weeks, so she's gonna get caught back up here. So, if nothing else, at least all that paint had lots of time to cure. I've got your strip sitting there too, because when Troy's car was here, I didn't want anybody stepping on it. So, yeah, and I didn't film any of the repairs on the orange car that was in here. It's gone now. They needed it back pretty quick for a car show. So, that went pretty smooth. No big deal. ShopDog, he wasn't enthused. He didn't care. Part of my goal for me today is to figure out where we want to route the fuel line. You notice I'm starting to get our firewall pretty occupied now. The CAN bus and the handheld, it took me a long time, but I finally, remember, it's a little packed up here. I finally got the CAN bus routed, so that's good. And then all the Dakota lines are going through there. I've still got to hook them up under the dash, but that's not a big deal. Obviously, you remember we ran the charge wire for the alternator under the intake. Keep it nice and safe and protected. It's completely encased in that black heat sleeve that we like. So it's running under there and going to the alternator. And I put 2 layers of red heat shrink on as well, just to act as a nice safety. So we've got that. This is the temp sensor for the Dakota dash. This is the temp sensor for the Sniper. And I think once we have the air cleaner on, you're not going to really notice it. So that's the hope. I've got the connector for the O2 sensor just hanging. Starting to get the hoses and the wiring over here all sorted out nice and tidy. Back there's the CAN connection. You can see it's that shiny one down there. This is the main harness for the Sniper. That's sitting right there. This is the auxiliary harness. This is not going to have a lot coming off of it for right now. Oh, Cheryl went out. Ollie's not happy. So that harness will get thinned. This, being the main power harness, I'm going to thin down as well. This has a fuel pump relay. Well, if you recall, we have a fuel pump relay and fuse and everything in here. All I need is the trigger wire for that. So just this thin blue wire. If you recall, we have a connection down here for it. I'll pull those up later so you guys can see, but see that mess of wires? Those are for the 400 kickdown power, the ignition and tack. The tack is going to come from the Sniper. The ignition is going to go to the HEI. The Sniper is going to get its tack signal from the tack port on the HEI and then output one for the Dakota. That way we don't have anybody interacting with anybody and causing problems. So, but I got to get this pulled apart and rebuilt. Probably will keep this fuse. There's no reason not to. And then remember, like all EFI stuff, straight to the battery. That's the biggest capacitor in the whole system. It's the cleanest point of power. They're going to go straight to the battery. And that's why I like these little stereo guide kind of things, because then one will go here, and then that would be for fans or something if you wanted it, one for your starter. In our case, for this build, since we've got a mechanical fan, we'll trim this down to where it needs to be, and that's going to be for the starter. But then we've also got the air ride and the amplifier and the EFI. So that's why we only got a 4-pin version. That should cover all of them. So we'll do starter, amplifier, and then air ride and EFI. So those will work perfectly. As you've seen, we've got all kinds of ground straps. I haven't decided where we're going to do our main ground. It's probably going to be right to the block like you see in a lot of Chevrolets, but haven't selected that yet. So there, that is a very long-winded intro. Okay, so this is how we've decided to solve this problem. So one, there was an existing hole there so we can have a support. And then we bought a very fancy hose barb to hose barb here for 5/8 to 5/8. And then we just trimmed that hose down. So we still get that arc, no crimped hose. But now it's going back towards the firewall where it's supported, and then over with the spring clamps. That should work great. He says we've been having loads of fun. So that's 5/8. That nipple's 3/4. We just finally went in and tightened these because I go through this block. So you can see, poor Diesel, he's working up under. Okay, we're going to try that again.
All right. So when you look underneath here, you see 1, 2, 3 fittings. The one on the right is the lower air conditioning fitting, but the two on the left that are stacked, that's heater right there. And we're trying to get to tightening these nuts down, and we're able to get in there a bit, but because of where it is, boy, what an SOB it is to get to.
Okay, so hopefully that wasn't too painful getting flipped up under there. But you can see that's not 3/4. That is 3/4. Also, our clamps don't work at 3/4. I've been searching online. No one's happy with anything we're finding. One of the things we're talking about doing is, just like we did here with the 5/8 to 5/8, we'll just order a 5/8 to 3/4 and we'll put it right in here. But we would like to find more spring clamps that'll fit the 3/4 hose. So we're still looking at that. We've got the clamps for the 5/8 for both ends, but not for the 3/4. And if we don't have to use worm clamps, we really don't want to use worm clamps. ShopDog and his buddy neighbor Jeff are watching to see that we're doing things right here. You know how the inspectors work. So remember all those wires I was talking about before? They're here. I've got to deal with that. But before we deal with that, we've decided to go ahead and deal with the fuel line. So you can see it's wrapped in that stuff. Because of the way we have it routed here, see it comes up and around. I don't want it getting caught in the steering. So what we're thinking is putting a clamp right here to kind of hold that away, and then it's clamped there. And I think that's going to be more than enough to keep it nice and safe. Okay, this is what we are proposing. So I'm just showing the customer now. So you can see it coming up, coming around. And then when you run the bell crank, see where that wants to run?
Where's that go? How can we figure that out? There we go.
Oh, because I had that hose pinched in there so it wouldn't fall.
Dan, you're not going to get any interference at all.
Nope, nope.
Fact,
And I think...
you could zippy tie it right there.
Well, I don't know about a zip tie. We might come up with something nicer than that. But yeah, we'll be able to work with that. I think that's going to work out really well. Let me go get a fitting. So this is the part where we decide if we're coming straight in with the straight fitting, or if I'm going to angle it down a little bit with that. And honestly, I know you guys can't see it, but if I angle that down, it's actually going to be pushing in here. I think straight is actually going to work out just fine. I don't think it's going to cause any problems with the spark plugs, you know, with the wires for the spark plug. So we'll go ahead and leave it a hair long, put it straight on there, and see what we think. Okay, so he's working on that. The answer is going to be long standoff, short standoff, couple riv nuts. That's going to solve our problem. So he's just working that out right now. Dog's trying to kill us all. Holy moly. It's pretty bad in here. He gets anxious and he farts a lot. Ollie is confused. There's company. And he always knows the work stops for a while. Okay, so what's Diesel up to now? Tell the people what you're doing.
So we worked out some standoffs and worked out where this will go. So we're going to put in a couple of rib nuts here, and where I'm going to drill here. We already tested out and made sure that the hose can actually loop up and around because it will be down here. So it's a matter of just finish drilling and putting it together.
And then since we couldn't find actual screws, Jeff found some countersunk ones in his stock. I cut down some all thread for now. I think he's just going to order some nice ones, but we'll just use some temporary for now because you got to have it. All right, ShopDog's been very, very busy. So he's got the studs lined up and on there. And they're getting ready to slide those on. And we did get a hose started, so at least he's got something to work with because it'll probably be hard to get at later.
Hey, look at that.
All right, so I'm gonna slide those, and they'll get bent a little bit. We'll deal with that when we get there. And they may be too long, they may be too short. May have to spin them out a little, but we can work with that. So that took us a minute because we had to recut the top to space the bottom out a little bit more. But now I think we're in the ballpark.
We're not level. Plumb.
Yeah, level would be the other way.
Thanks, Jeff.
So now you know you can trim a little off of that one. Okay. Coming back out. I had to hit the head real quick. We've actually got a bit going on. We got that mounted and we were happy. So he's painted that longer bracket. I don't know where he's got it hung. I think it's in our little tank. So these guys are in here trying to figure something out. One of the things we forgot is we are going to have to mount this. Let's not forget that. We need that. So we got to get that going. And they're trying to figure out, how did the washer bottle mount from the factory? We're not finding good notes on that. You know, we haven't figured it out. Well, that's just it. You look at that tank there, and then you look at this, and that doesn't look the same at all. Yeah, it's been a constant source of, we're not sure. Okay, we forgot this car has been a little modified. And down here on the wheel well, hopefully you guys can see, lift that up a little, where the previous owner had mounted a shock tower for the air ride stuff that wouldn't normally be there. And then we looked, and son of a monkey, here's where the holes were. This wasn't rounded like it is now. They had to push the, in fact, you can see where they cut it and pulled these out to make room for that shock mount here, right there, that they had added for the air ride. And that's why we're fighting that, because the spot it's supposed to go isn't there anymore. So one of the places we were definitely looking is, well, now that we don't have an evaporator thing sitting out here, why couldn't we do that? That would work pretty good, I think. And look how nice the hose would be. I got to sell him on it, though. He isn't quite sold yet. So here is our solution. That worked pretty slick and should self-siphon and everything. So that should not be a problem. So that'll always be prime since it's going down. We left her a hair long for now so that we got a little options. But yeah, that'll work. And we got new hoses for the squirters as well. Okay, she's done a couple layers of clear. Later this week, she's going to do one more wet sand on the clear, do one more coat, and then call it good. She wants it to look as good as it can before the dog really has fun with it. So you got to do what you got to do. And then in here, we've got some things worked out. We got some stuff on order. Diesel's going to pick up a few things. I've got some wiring to do, but we're really, really getting there. Honestly, one of the next mounting things that has to happen, of course, is the cruise control, which I really, really like putting in these old cars, because sometimes you're not going the speed you think you are. So let's avoid tickets where we can. So that's most likely going to mount here. But on a few cars, I've actually mounted them on that side, because you can't change that cable length. You got to work with the cable length they give you. So we'll work on that. So the cables for that will go through one of the holes there, and then the cables for the GSS, which is the sending unit on the transmission for the gear select for the Dakota Digital Dash. When that's installed, that cable will go in as well. It's right here. But since we don't have, and I know I didn't film any of it, I've been bad. I've worked on things without showing anybody. But we had bought linkage stuff for the 400, not realizing that, to work with aftermarket shifters, not with factory style shifters. So we've identified what we actually need. So that's going to be on order tomorrow. And now that the transmission's installed, now we can finally drop the pan, change the filter, clean everything up, change the gasket. We weren't even going to bother with that when it was sitting on that little cart on the floor, because what a mess that would be. So, no, we'll get that. But we're actually getting really close to finding out about starters and timing and things like that. We're a few weeks away. Now, next week, I will be out of town, so there will be no video next week. But the week after that, there should be some progress. So we're waiting on progress. Hey guys, what would we say?
Thanks for watching.